Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we will be continuing our Dark Souls playthrough as I read some Zany Stories. As always, the stories will be linked in the description, and check out the playlist I made with these videos. If you like videos like this, remember to like and subscribe. That being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on, but I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible. Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this, as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you. Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you? Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods. Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith. Come again. The effectiveness of the teachings depend upon your faith.
Dyslexic Stripper. My husband and I were watching reruns of the Antiques Roadshow. The theme music is kind of jazzy. The music was playing, and my husband starts dancing suggestively, while also zipping up his sweater. Me, love your skills, but strippers usually take clothes off when dancing. Him, I'm a dyslexic stripper, keeps dancing. My insane doctor's appointment, and we have liftoff. If you've ever been so embarrassed you literally could die, you gotta hear this. So here I am straight out of high school. It was a couple years since my last physical, and I was due. So I scheduled a doctor's appointment for a regular physical. You have no idea how this is going to end. I get to my appointment, and I'm ready for whatever. Open my mouth and say, take big, deep breaths in and out, and yes, drop my pants, turn and cough. Then he says, we should take a urine sample, and I'm like, easy peasy. So I get a cup from the nurse, head to the bathroom, and splash all over to get a sample. You think it's easy, but it's not like a faucet. Once you start, you can't stop. I cleaned up, walked out and gave the cup of my pee to the nurse, and head home full of pride, thinking I surely passed with flying colors. Nope. The nurse calls later that afternoon, and I'm thinking, I only slept with a couple girls. What could it be? She begins to tell me that my test came back abnormal. and that I should see a specialist. What specialist? I asked. She says we found an abnormal amount of white blood cells in your urine, and we'd like you to see a urologist. Great, here we go. I schedule a urologist appointment a week later, and I'm thinking the worst. Could it be an STD, or worse yet, some type of disease? Maybe I have a defective ding-dong? I have no clue. I nervously walk in, sit down and wait my turn, gripping the chair with both hands like I'm about to take off on a rocket ship. There are other guys in the waiting room all waiting their turns, but it's obvious that I'm the youngest of the space shuttle crew. Finally, my name gets called and I sit down in the exam room. About 20 minutes later, the doctor comes in and explains what the nurse told me over the phone. Here I am thinking, it'll just be another urine sample, right? He then says, I'd like to start with a bladder scope. Great. They're going to cut me open and look at my bladder. This obviously won't happen today, and this will need to be scheduled out. Nope. He says, no, we won't cut you open. We'll take a thin tube with a light and camera at the end and insert it into your urethra. I am visibly shaking at this point. What's my urethra? Is that a medical term for belly button? I ask. No, it's where you urinate from, he says. I immediately turn white and start sweating. I begin to tell him, I don't think this is necessary. I've only slept with 2 girls, and there must be some type of mistake. Can we schedule this for another time? No, we have it scheduled for today, and trust me, it won't hurt or take long, he says. I get taken back into another room, where they lay me down to prepare me for procedure. I'm literally shaking at this point, thinking I just want to go home and crawl under the covers. Then about 4 other nurses walk into the room. Apparently, they are students who are observing the procedure for educational purposes. WTF, I'm thinking. This older female nurse, probably in her 60s, then comes up to me and says, I need to prepare the area for procedure. She then proceeds to clean my junk with this orange-reddish liquid called iodopovidone. Oh no, it's been some time since my last encounter with my ex. But this is not good. She's cleaning the area like it's her last supper, and here I am getting a rock, hard bonsai tree. I grasp the table, and before I can start to think of my grandmother, the inevitable happens. I had no control. It was so fast. I had no time to think. IT comes out. The nurse takes a step back and immediately places a towel over and says, it's not the first time. An unexpected discovery in the Jersey woods. So, here's a strange story from a couple of years ago that I've never really shared with anyone because, well, it's kind of embarrassing but also hilariously absurd. I was living in Jersey at the time, and one Saturday afternoon, I decided to take a walk in the woods near the highway. Why was I in the woods, you ask? I wasn't exactly the outdoorsy type, but I had this phase where I just needed to get away from screens, my phone, and the noise of life. You know, just be one with nature. Plus, there was a local trail that had a reputation for being pretty peaceful, and I figured a walk could clear my head. So, I'm walking along, minding my own business, when I noticed something half buried in the mud. At first, I thought it was just trash. Jersey is notorious for litter along highways, so it wouldn't have been surprising. But as I got closer, I realized it was a DVD case. It was so filthy that at first, I didn't even realize what it was. I honestly thought the cover was black. Curiosity got the best of me, so I picked it up after wiping off some dirt. I realized it wasn't just any DVD. It was some adult movie. The title was barely legible, but the characters on the cover had distinctly Indian features. I couldn't help but laugh at how random this was. Here I was, trying to disconnect from modern life, only to find some kind of Bollywood-themed adult flick of all things, half buried in the mud. The case was still intact, which made me think that whoever dropped this either lost it during a hike, which is already a weird thought, or intentionally left it there, maybe hoping someone else would stumble upon it. It's almost like it was meant to be found. The rest of my walk was filled with ridiculous thoughts about who might have brought this out here. Maybe it was someone who had a weird idea of what a nature walk should involve. Maybe it was part of some bizarre scavenger hunt. When I got home, I couldn't resist. I popped the DVD into my old player, eager to see what kind of hilarity I'd uncovered. But here's the kicker. The damn thing didn't work. Not even a flicker. It must have gotten wet at some point because the disc looked fine at first. But once it started spinning, the player just spat it out. Part of me was disappointed. I mean, after all that buildup, it could have been the most bizarrely entertaining thing I'd ever seen. But another part of me was relieved because maybe it's better not to know what kind of weirdness that DVD contained. And so, it sits on my shelf now, a bizarre souvenir from that random day in the woods. Sometimes I think about tossing it, but then I remember how strangely funny and absurd that moment was. And I just can't bring myself to get rid of it. Whoever dropped that thing in the woods, whether by accident or on purpose, definitely gave me a story to tell. Don't know if this is the right group, but here's a short, funny interaction my autism led me to. I was at a club with my GF and her schoolmates. They studied graphic design. There was a guy I got along with quite well. He was into metal and really looked the part. I was a bit drunk, and the guy asked me if I thought Satanists were mean devil worshippers. So I first said, well, that might depend on what kind it is. But from what I know, Levi Satanism isn't devil worship. He smiled at that, but then I ended with, but they are cringe. And then he didn't speak to me again. I had no clue he was a Satanist, but now, afterwards, I won't feel bad about my honesty. The mismatched socks mystery. In the sleepy town of Nottington, everyone was puzzled by a peculiar phenomenon: mismatched socks. It all started when Mrs. Thompson, the local librarian, noticed that her favorite purple polka-dotted socks always went missing, only to be found paired with her husband's striped ones. "James," she called to her husband one morning, "have you seen my purple polka dots? They've appeared in the laundry room with your stripes." James, who was still half asleep, replied, "Maybe they're just trying to spice up their life with a little variety." Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Mrs. Thompson launched an investigation. Armed with magnifying glass and notebook, she set up a sock surveillance system in her laundry room, complete with cameras and an elaborate diagram of sock placement. The next day, Mrs. Thompson was ready with her snacks and coffee as she reviewed the footage. To her astonishment, she saw her neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, sneaking into her laundry room. He was dressed in a full-length disguise, a trench coat, hat, and oversized sunglasses. Mr. Jenkins carefully removed one of her socks and replaced it with a brightly colored one. Mrs. Thompson was baffled. She confronted Mr. Jenkins, who sheepishly admitted he had a sock problem. "I've been trying to match my socks for ages, but I'm terrible at it," he confessed. "So, I thought I'd borrow yours for inspiration. Your mismatched pairs are always so creative." Mrs. Thompson couldn't help but laugh. "You know, Mr. Jenkins, you don't need to steal socks to get inspiration. Just ask." From that day forward, the residents of Nottington embraced the quirky sock trend, and mismatched socks became a local fashion statement. The town even held an annual sock swap party, where everyone could trade their most colorful and mismatched pairs. And as for Mrs. Thompson, she became the proud sock detective of Nottington, solving the greatest sock mystery with a touch of humor and creativity. Receptionist likes my cologne. I don't wear cologne. Hi all. I think this is funny, but not entirely sure you guys will agree. Let's find out. Smiley face. Long story short, I drive a UDA, pickup truck for you Americans. I do a lot of pickups and deliveries for work. Yesterday, I stopped by one of our suppliers to pick up some stuff. I popped into the main office to let the receptionist know I was there. She called up the store man to let him know. Then she asked me, "What are you wearing?" I was confused because she could see me quite clearly. And for work, I wear high visibility work, where so it's pretty clear what I'm wearing. When I pointed at my shirt all confused, she laughed and said, "What cologne are you wearing? I could smell it last time you were here as well. And it's lovely." Cute even more confusion because I don't wear cologne. When I told her that she was insistent that I had a lovely scent to me, that's when I realized what she was smelling. I pulled out my vape pen and passed it to her. She smelled it and laughed. That was the scent. Blackberry, raspberry, lemon. LOL, we shared a little laugh before I went back to my car and met with the store man.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Soler of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time. Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind.
Snake cupboard. Yesterday I was just chilling, and for the past like 5 days I've heard something crashing around in the cupboard under my snake tank. I got tired of the noise and decided to check it out. I open the cupboard and see nothing, just my dance mat. I move it and see my snake jump out at me. I ran out of the room screaming, "Help! My snake is out of its tank. Help!" My sister was terrified of my snake ever since I got it and ran out of the house. What a... My stepdad was in the bath and had to get out to put it back in its cage while everyone else, including me, were downstairs. SMH. And don't worry, he is fine and healthy. The irony of eyeglass repair kits. I decided to fix my glasses myself like a true DIY pro. I bought one of those fancy eyeglass repair kits, with microscopic screws, and that screwdriver so tiny it could double as an elf's toothpick. Feeling all confident, I carefully opened the kit, taking out the minuscule screws and the world's smallest screwdriver. I was ready for action. Then I took off my glasses to tighten the screws, and immediately realized I couldn't even see the screws. They were so tiny they might as well have been dust particles. Suddenly, I was squinting harder than ever, like a nearsighted pirate hunting for treasure. And there I was, trying to fix the one thing that could help me see. But I couldn't see it to fix it in the first place. At that moment, I thought, this must be how a T-Rex feels trying to clap. How my partner serenaded me. My partner serenaded me by learning and playing FING, Stacy's Mom. It's one of my all-time fave songs, and he FING learned to play it before we started dating and serenaded me with it. He had a crush on me, and I wasn't really sure about finding new love, but craved the attention. He learned the song and played it to me, not singing just a guitar, and I instantly knew this was a guy I want to spend the rest of my life with. We've been together for almost 4 years now, and hopefully for many more to come. As silly as that is, I love that man, and I wouldn't have it any other way. How I got to kill somebody without law enforcement getting involved. I was walking down the street one day when I came across a new store that had opened. It was a bakery. I walked inside the store in hopes to buy a yummy, scrummy plutonium cake, but they were sold out. So I walked down the street with my head held down, looking at Livy Dunn's Giant on my Cocomelon phone. Then I saw a man with a bag of something that I couldn't see. So I turned on my jet engines and accidentally flew into a wall. I was okay, but I needed to know what was in that bag that the Casey man owned, so I walked 69,000 miles to get what was in that bag. So I cranked some 90s and 200 pumped him and got all his loot. He had a yummy, scrummy plutonium cake. So I was happy, and I walked home with my cake and took a big shit. Not in public. Today I was at the laundromat washing clothes. I had me gassy and having a slight bout of diarrhea. I knew when I bent to sit down a fart was edging, and I gauged it to be silent. The chairs are hard plastic. I bend down to pick up the keys I dropped, and the loudest fart left my body that made the loudest and longest noise in a quiet laundromat with at least 6 people. I've never been so humiliated. I always get kicks and laughs when someone asks me what happened to me and my ex-best friends. This happened in 2021, but I still remember it all as clear as day. So when we had practicals in college, my ex-best friend would allow us to leave our PP bags in her car until the end of the day. Well, one day I completely forgot about my PP bag being in her car. It wasn't until I got home that I had surveilled messages / missed calls as my phone was on silent anyways. I asked her if it was alright if she could keep hold of it until Monday, and she said that's fine. Well, her mom found out and completely went ballistics at me, and she was acting as if I had drugs in that bag. I don't even do drugs, so I have no idea where that assumption came from, and I was just laughing at her stupidity. Her mom also went ballistics at my mom, and my mom told her it's between me and my ex-best friend, and how we are adults, so we make our decisions, but nope, apparently I wasn't allowed to make my own decisions. So my mom and her mom were constantly messaging back and forth, arguing, and even telling me and my mom drive over to theirs to get my PP bag. Well, on Monday, my course manager asked me and my ex-best friend to stay behind to discuss an incident that occurred. Well, halfway through the discussion, I noticed that my course manager has copies of the messages between my mom and her mom. So I called my mom, and my course manager told me to hang up the phone. I didn't, as I was telling my mom about the screenshots that my course manager had in front of her, and stupid the meeting was whilst both me and my mom were laughing the whole time. So I hung up eventually on my terms, and we continued. And when I say my ex-best friends were quick to block me on Facebook, I mean like 2 seconds after the meeting. So after the meeting, I called my mom back and told her what happened. Now, my mom was doing a law degree that time, so this is where I found out that what my ex-best friend's mom did that was illegal, and we could have pressed charges for it. Under the Data Protection Act, you need permission to take a screenshot and share it with someone. The only time this is illegal is if you don't have permission to take a screenshot of someone's personal data, including profile picture in the screenshot, and include someone's full name. Now, my ex-best friend's mom didn't have permission to take the screenshot and share it to my course manager. So we could have filed a police report against the mom as it contained my mom's full name, and the profile picture was my sister and my mom was tempted to. Also, after the meeting, my course manager revealed to me that it was the most stupidest thing she's ever had to deal with once my ex-best friend left the room. Also, I mentioned another ex-best friend as she sided with ex-best friend 1, even though she was involved but decided to hang around. Just a random story about my dad. Deceased. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but when he wanted, he could be sadistically funny, sometime at his kid's expense. This was a Monday morning about 7 years ago. Because I lived 2 time zones behind him, I had a habit of calling him 2 to 3 times a week on my way to work. You know, how's your week going? And how's mom? Kind of stuff. He was in his late 70s at this point. For context, I'm the youngest of 3, and the wandering son. My oldest brother is the good son, the one who stayed home, worked the family land, and joined the family business, etc. To his credit, the old man never chose favorites among us, but there were times when he would set me or our middle brother aside to talk to the oldest. Such was what happened this particular morning. Pop and I were chatting when he suddenly cut me off, saying, "Oh, P, hold on a minute. Your brother is calling." I said, "Okay," and he took the call. Dead air on my end. After almost 10 minutes, I hear a click, and the old man came back on the line, stating, "Crap, I almost forgot about you. Are you still there?" Me, trying to be funny, replied, "No." He said, "Oh, okay," and hung up. I kind of looked funny at my phone on the dashboard for about a minute, and then called him back. I asked him, "Did you seriously just hang up on me?" He replied, Maybe. Did it sound something like this?" Click, boop, boop, boop. "Yeah." He hung up again, beaming face with smiling eyes. Insert chuckle and face bomb here. Good one, Pop. I was pretty much at work by that time. So I just dropped it and went on about my day. Plus. That evening, I called the house and spoke with my mom first. She told me that the two of them had one of the biggest laughs they had shared in years over this. The old man was just smug and a bit snarky over it, but I could hear him smiling. Yeah, Pop and I quarreled a lot when I was younger, like most fathers and sons, but I do miss those conversations now. In hindsight, it's amazing how much smarter he gets as I get older. Winking face. Scammer calls work number. I answer. They soon hang up on me. During one of my shifts, I work at a restaurant that makes salads, smoothies, acai bowls, and now salad wraps. The store phone rings. The GM was busy with customers while I took a moment from doing the dishes to answer phone. Upon giving the general business greeting, announcing the name of the store, the caller, Scammer, answered back, "I'm with a TV streaming service, blah, blah, blah. Can you hear me?" I replied that I could, but their English was a little shoddy. They spoke again, but I could barely hear them, so went to the back, and they asked again if I could hear them. I said yes, but again their English was a little shoddy. They announced that they were with a TV streaming service. I asked which one, since there were thousands here in the U.S., and went on to explain why there are so many, but I heard dead silence, then the dial tone. I turned off the phone, exclaiming to the GM that was a rude caller. They hung up before I could finish my spiel about why there are so many streaming services in the U.S.
You ever think to forge your weapons? You'd better find a smith box soon, unless you enjoy swinging about with blunt instruments.
Check your kids' devices often. Telling this story on my aunt's behalf. My son's tablet recently broke, so I ordered him an Amazon Fire, and when it came you had to use your Amazon details to sign in, obviously, and I've had this account years, so there's all sorts on there. But anyway, my son is autistic, and we use his tablet to bribe him in and out of school, and he is allowed on it on breaks. So that's what we did, and when I returned to pick him up later that day, he was kicking off without his tablet. So I asked the staff where it was, and they said they'd had to confiscate it. So they'd be right back. Then I asked them why they confiscated it, and they said there was an inappropriate picture on there, but refused to tell me what it is. So I went home and discover my sex tape of my son literally being conceived, and I live in a small village and can't even move him schools. I am doomed.
Greetings. I am Oswald of Careem, the Pardon. Thou art a friend. For thee, a warm welcome. Cometh thou to confess, or to accuse? For indeed all sin is my domain. Thou art welcome any time. It is only human to commit a sin.